Donald Trump had a liberal reporter in Chicago earlier today trapped in a cage with no way out, figuratively speaking, and he opened the door and let her walk right out. It was the easiest slam dunk in the world, and honest to God, I was almost screaming at the screen. Truthfully, I think we might be seeing Donald Trump at 78 years old start to lose his edge a little bit, because this was a super easy one to knock out of the park, and he just let it go. I don't think he even saw what was happening. Don't think so? Wait till I show you this. It's going to be one of those things that harkens back to 2020 and 2021 here in Florida, when the liberal media started to go after our governor and he eviscerated them. The very opposite thing happened today in Chicago, unfortunately. Now, perfect day to join Florida Maquis Patreon channel. It's the last day of the month. That way you sign up now. You don't pay for a partial month. You just get the whole month. Would love to have you. We're going to be doing a brand new video next couple of days. We've got hundreds and hundreds of videos over there. It's only $1 a month these days, with the censors rolling up less than 100 days to the election. Could sure use your help. To be very honest, I could very much use your help. Those who have signed up, God bless all of you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It has made a huge, huge difference in my life. And I know it's tight for everyone. And if it's not for you, or if money's tight, it's fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. Would love to have you over there. Now, how many of you played the game Mousetrap? As a kid, this was one of our favorites. Sometimes pieces got lost and it wasn't as much fun. But basically you had a little mouse and moved around the thing, and then at some point you turned a little crank and it dropped a little ball in a bucket, and all these different things happened until the cage over the mouse, got the thing holding it up, got bumped, and the cage came slamming down, and the mouse underneath got captured, and that was it. He had her. He had her cornered in her own question, had her cornered. Now, what am I talking about? Florida Monkey, 2.5 minutes. Get to it. What are you talking about? White House lashes out over Trump answer about VP Harris being called a DEI hire. Now, DEI stands, of course, for diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. Now, the assumption made in the question by the reporter is that calling somebody a DEI hire is a pejorative. For those of you who are a little less on the IQ scale, that just means it's an attack. It's a bad thing. A pejorative. When DEI hire is to the left, a good thing. That means hiring somebody based on their skin color or their gender or who they choose to shack up with at night. Using those things that have nothing to do with the job. But because historically things haven't been fair for blah, 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 blah. We're going to use these completely irrelevant standards to hire people. And it has been alleged that the reason Ms. Harris was put on the ticket was that she was a person of color and a woman, which have nothing to do with being vice president. They are symbolic and have no applicable function in doing your job as president or vice president. And that's all he had to say, to look at her and say, are you saying that DEI is bad? See, that was the assumption. She was trying to knock him for using the term DEI hire as a pejorative, when all he had to do was turn around and say, I thought it was a good thing. I thought hiring DEI was a good thing. So if we call her a DEI hire, wouldn't we be complimenting her? Wouldn't we be complimenting Joe Biden? Wouldn't we be complimenting the current administration? Saying that they have now put the sad history of racism and sexism and homophobia in the past and are now moving forward But you see, that was the thing. She wasn't smart enough to realize the trap she dropped on herself. And he didn't jump on it. And nobody is jumping on it. I thought DEI hiring was a good thing. I thought DEI hiring was a good thing. And here's the game they're trying to play. A lot of people have missed this. Kamala Harris, first woman of color to serve as the vice president. District attorney, raised by a Jamaican father and Indian-born mother. Now, here's the mistake that's happening largely on the right. Well, wait a minute. Why is she saying she's black when she's Jamaican and Indian? You can be black and be Jamaican. You can't be African and be Jamaican, but you can be black and be Jamaican. You see, they're trying to parse words here. People on the right are confusing the term black American with African American, thinking that they are synonymous. They are not necessarily synonymous. Case in point, Corinne Jean-Pierre was born on the island of Martinique to Haitian immigrants. Now, you can be Haitian, and you can also be black, and not be African. Now, there are, of course, when you look back and you get on genealogy and all this kind of stuff, there is, of course, a way to trace lineage back to that continent. But according to science, that's where we all come from anyway. So you can say that you're black and you're Jamaican and say that I'm a black American, I'm a Jamaican American, or a Haitian American, and also be a black American. Person of color is why they went to that term. This is the game they're trying to play. Now, speaking of playing games, this is why a lot of us said we need Governor DeSantis, not Mr. Trump, because Governor DeSantis made a game of destroying leftist reporters in 2020, 2021, 2022. After all of the nonsense with COVID. And the videos are out there, and we covered live events where he got standing ovations from people in the crowd when a leftist reporter would try to couch some ridiculous question. And because he's a military-trained JAG officer and a lawyer, he knows how these games are played, and he knows how to destroy them. Here's one from, when was this? January 4, 2021. This is one of the most popular ones where he, absolutely about the rollout of, what was happening with COVID. This one here, where he absolutely turns the tables on this reporter, and this kid absolutely has no answer for him because he's trying to say that the governor was withholding unemployment funds. Watch, DeSantis gets standing ovation after question on whether Trump inspired Florida's new big tech crackdown. Ron DeSantis destroys leftist reporter for politicizing hurricane. He was so good at this, and is still. And the reason I say is because the left gave up in Florida. It had nothing to do with Trump. But Trump endorsed him. We had Republican governors in this state while Trump was here. Trump's been in Mar-a-Lago a long time. We had Jeb Bush. We had Rick Scott. If Trump had the ability to do what's been done since DeSantis took office, why didn't he do it before? You see, that's the difference between Ron DeSantis and Jeb Bush and Rick Scott and Donald Trump. Actual conservative with leadership training. And this is what makes him so mad on the left, is that their money couldn't buy Florida. Their money couldn't stop Governor DeSantis. Soros paid to put a state attorney into power in and around Orlando, and the governor just dismissed her, suspended her, and got rid of her after this guy spent millions. And that's the reality. Now, believe it or not, that's exactly what's happening in Venezuela right now. There is a billionaire throwing a temper tantrum because he threw a bunch of money at trying to rig an election in Venezuela, and it didn't work. Elon Musk launched a bunch of satellites to give free internet he controlled, to a bunch of people to create a false alternative reality in Venezuela, attempting to influence the election with lies and falsehood and make-believe nonsense. And Nicolas Maduro saw right through it and said, not happening. Not in our country. Your money can't buy our government. Musk accepts Venezuelan president's offer to fight. This is really the key here. The Venezuelan president came and said, look, if you want to come after me, Mr. Musk, come after me. Meet you anytime, anywhere. Let's fight. So here's what Elon Musk's terms are. You ready for this? Musk responded once again, if I win the fight, he resigns as dictator of Venezuela. He's an elected president of Venezuela. He's a leader. He's not a dictator. So right in the language, it's ridiculous. If he wins, I give him a free ride to Mars. Elon Musk does not have the ability to deliver people to other planets in the solar system. But of course, it doesn't say a free ride there and back, even if he did. So this is the point. Elon Musk threw a temper tantrum, threw a bunch of money at something, and it didn't work. Just like Soros in Florida. Just like Trump back in 2020 and 2021. Former Green Beret arrested for 2020 failed Venezuela raid. See, even Trump threw a bunch of money at trying to overthrow a country, and he failed. Just like what happened here in Florida. A former U.S. Green Beret in 2020 organized a failed cross-border raid of Venezuelan army deserters to remove President Nicolas Maduro, has been arrested in New York on federal arms smuggling charges. A federal indictment unsealed this week in Tampa, Florida, accuses Jordan Goudreau and a Venezuelan partner, Yasis Alvarez, of, I think I have the name right, Yassi. We'll say Yassi. Yassi Alvarez of violating U.S. arms control laws when they allegedly assembled and sent to Colombia AR-styled weapons, ammo, night vision goggles, and other defense equipment requiring a U.S. export license. Goudreau, 48, was also charged with conspiracy, smuggling goods from the United States, and unlawful possession of a machine gun among 14 counts. He is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Goudreau, a three-time Bronze Star recipient for bravery in Iraq and Afghanistan, catapulted to fame in 2020 when he claimed responsibility for an amphibious raid by a ragtag group of soldiers that had trained in clandestine camps in neighboring Colombia. He said he and others were acting to protect Venezuela's democracy after Maduro's 2018 re-election, where nobody ran against him, was boycotted by the opposition and condemned as undemocratic by the U.S. and dozens of other countries, with absolutely no proof of that being the case. 2 days before the incursion, the Associated Press published an investigation detailing how Goudreau had been trying for months to raise funds for the harebrained idea from the Trump administration. Venezuela's opposition and wealthy Americans looking to invest in Venezuela's oil industry should Maduro be removed, while then opposition leader, random guy named Juan Guaido, was initially enthused by the coup idea, signing an agreement with Goudreau's Melbourne, Florida-based startup Silvercorp to explore such an option. Little financial support actually arrived, and the rural homes along Colombia's Caribbean coast that housed the would-be liberators suffered from a lack of food, weapons, and other supplies. Despite the setbacks, the coup plotters went forward in a comical, if tragic way, in what became known as the Bay of Piglets. Of course, harkening back to what happened with Kennedy, the Bay of Pigs in Cuba. The group was easily mopped up by Venezuela's security forces, which had already infiltrated the group. Two of Goudreau's former Green Beret colleagues spent years in Venezuela's prisons until a prisoner swap, Joe Biden, last year, with other jailed Americans for a Maduro ally held in the U.S. money on London. Let's see if I can speak here. A prisoner swap last year with other jailed Americans for a Maduro ally held in the U.S. on money laundering charges. Anyway, you can read the rest of this. I'll give you the link. We showed the images. We talked about this. All this crap about board-starving Venezuelan military, can't do anything. U.S. Green Berets went down there, got their ass kicked. U.S. Green Berets went down there, got their ass kicked. End of story. And let me explain this in English so that perhaps people can understand the idea. Enforcing laws that prohibit someone from running for president while that same someone is also simultaneously plotting to kill the current president does not make you a dictator. Enforcing laws that prohibit you from running for president while you and your accomplices are plotting to kill the sitting president doesn't make you a dictator. Period. And we all remember the State of the Union speech where Donald Trump got everyone to be in unison, and Democrats, Republicans stand up for a random guy named Juan and being united with the Venezuelan. It's just vomitous. See, in 2013, there was an election, and it was a close election, a very close one, and Nicolas Maduro won. In 2018, the opposition held their breath and rolled on the floor and turned blue and balled up their fists and decided they weren't going to run. And even then, Maduro got 67.8% of the vote. And that made him a dictator. Juan Guaido, random guy named Juan, never being elected to anything of note. National Assembly with only 26% of the vote. The U.S. recognized this guy as the president. Trump recognized this guy as the president, never having won shit. Because it's the last actual Christian country, Christian socialist, mind you, Christian socialist country left in this hemisphere. The leader, Chavez, stood before the UN. And you can look this up if you think I'm making it up. Look it up. And he spoke right after George Bush, and he said after he was up there, it said it smelled like brimstone, burning sulfur. And he said, "Give me your crown, Jesus. Give me your cross, your thorns, so that I may bleed, but give me life because I have more to do for this country and these people." Most modern American so-called Christians wouldn't know an actual one if it bit them in the ass. Because down there in Latin America, you know all those evil people coming across the border? All those terrible people coming across the border? See, they're not confused about what a man is and what a woman is and what the proper role of a man and a woman is. And they also understand what the great command is. Go forth, be fruitful, and multiply. And that's what they do. Quick poll. How many of you are going to volunteer your Gen Z sons and daughters to go crawl up on the roof and start hammering in shingles? How many of you are going to volunteer your sons and daughters to go make beds and clean toilets and cook food in the kitchen at Applebee's and mop floors and wash dishes? How many of you are going to volunteer? First of all, I don't think they would acquiesce to it, even if you volunteered them. There's not enough of them to do it. And even if they would agree to do all of these jobs, these millions of jobs in America that these people are filling, even if they would agree to it, they couldn't do it as well. You pick any random 24 Gen Z, white European, 18 to 25-year-old men, and you put them up against the same group of guys from here building a house, it's laughable. These guys would smoke them not only in quality, but in speed. Even if they would agree to do it for the same money, Gen Z kids won't do these jobs. Gen Z kids won't do these jobs. They all want to be influencers. They all want to work in offices with air conditioning. They're not having babies. They don't even want to have babies. This is the reality. And there are things out there they don't want you to know. But the left knows it. Latinos migrating to GOP is a crisis. Because they're far more conservative than what you think. Now, under the heading, things money can't buy. Things money can't buy. You see, this billionaire, Musk, is throwing yet even another temper tantrum because of what was his son. And he went to a whole bunch of different women, had a whole bunch of kids by different women, because he was a billionaire and he could afford it. And one of those women decided to let one of his sons start on puberty blockers to, quote unquote, become a girl, which is a misnomer, because puberty blockers just make you an it. They keep you, if you're a boy, from developing boy traits, male traits. But if you're a girl, it stops you from developing girl traits too. It makes you an it. But Florida Maquis, this kid looks definitely more like a girl. Yeah, you see, here's the article, by the way. Elon Musk opens up about transgender child says his son is dead. I wasn't explained to me the puberty blockers. The guy's a billionaire. You're telling me that you couldn't have hired? You can send rockets all over the place. You can send people to Mars. You can do all this crap. Create trucks that drive around that look like dumpsters on wheels. And you can do all this crap. But you couldn't hire a dozen people to inform you about what puberty blockers actually do. They stop you from becoming anything. A man or a woman. A man or a woman. Reason I use this image? It's the most watched video ever. Yes, the song Despacito. Go watch it. It's only 3.5, 4 minutes of your time. It'll show you a group of people who have absolutely no confusion whatsoever about what their roles are in society. You see, we had people, men, back in the 1980s, who glammed it up and dressed up like women, but never insisted that anybody believe they were truly women. This is, of course, the heavy metal band Poison. See if I can get these names right. Lower right, Ricky Rocket. C.C. DeVille, lower left. Upper right, Bobby Dahl. Upper left, Bret Michaels. 4 of the straightest, most hetero dudes you have ever met in your life. Don't think so? These 2 girls I went to school with. These are private pictures. These 2 girls I went to school with, and here they are at a Poison concert, getting their back and other places, I'll not mention, signed by Bret Michaels. Most of these heavy metal bands were like this. See, they were guys, they knew they were guys, and they just did the whole makeup thing as a shtick, which is fine. Which is fine, but this is what happens when you let billionaires have their way and do things with impunity. See, just like George Soros in Florida being defeated by Governor DeSantis. And Florida, you know what's so wonderful about Florida right now? You know what's absolutely spectacular about Florida? No ads. No ads whatsoever. The left has picked up and left. There are absolutely no ads in Florida anywhere on the radio or TV or anything. 100 days to an election. Florida's a done deal, sealed deal. It's a red state now. It's a red state because of Governor DeSantis and nobody else. Because if it had been Trump, he would have clearly made it a red state when Rick Scott was governor or when Jeb Bush was governor. If it was truly up to Trump, and it wasn't up to Trump. See, Governor DeSantis won in spite of him. And yeah, well, I'll probably leave that there. But once again, the rat got let out of the cage. The rat got let out of the cage. It was a slam dunk. I don't care what metaphor you want to use. It was a home run. It was T-ball. It was the easiest thing to do. Could have crushed her. Could have crushed her. And he just didn't see it. So I will leave it there. God bless. Thank you so much for all of you who have signed up the Patreon channel. I very, very much appreciate it. It means a lot. It truly does. If you haven't, could sure use you over there. And once again, no risk. No risk whatsoever. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.